right, we are ready to demold. So, oh, I like those two colors. Still a little bit, like I wanted them to be more wavy and stuff like that. Still got some lines like this, but I really like that. So you'll notice I've got some resin on the outside here that went over the side of my mold. And I just have this little tool here that it makes it super easy to trim that off. Yeah, it's easier to do it here so I can see exactly where to do it. So it's just a little blade that's got a curve to it. But it's not so big that if I put my finger in it that I cut myself or anything. It just removes the resin. Now a shape like this, because there's so many jagged edges to it, because it's not smooth or something, will be a little bit harder to do, but you can see how nicely that turns out compared to that there. And it's also much easier to do this right when you've demolded, when the resin is still, like it's cured, but it's still a little bit softer. Once it's had a few days to sit, it becomes more hard and it becomes harder to trim. So I would definitely do this earlier rather than later. Here's my other one here. This one's from earlier this week. This one here is a little bit harder. This one has been sitting for, I think I did it about 4 or 5 days ago. So it's a little bit harder to do. It's not, the knife will still trim it, but it's not quite as easy as this one here that I've just pulled out of the mold. Now let's do these other ones and see how they turned out. Ooh, that looks really cool. So you see, I don't know if you can see with the camera how there's a bit of a gold sheen, but there's also a bit of an orangey sheen to it. And that's what the iridescent micas do with it. And it just makes it look so much more interesting. Oh, I like how that turned out with the jagged edge like that. To me, that looks so much more interesting. But you can see that those mica powders look beautiful even on the flat resin in between there. So you can really have fun and play with the textures with this. Oh, I love how that one looks too. Love it. There is a couple bubbles in there that got caught, but because it still is enhanced by the mica powders, I don't mind them. I think they make it look a lot more interesting. So look around your house, see what non-porous plastic things you can do that you can create different things of texture within your coasters. Now, one thing to keep in mind, and I don't actually have one, you know those mesh bags that fruits and vegetables come in? You could inlay that in here, and so you would see the mesh and you would get some texture from that. But because it's not a solid surface, you wouldn't be able to pull it out. So it would be something that would be embedded within there, but that could be a really cool look. I'm loving that one. I think there's so many opportunities for that. Could have lots of fun with this. Very cool. There's a little tiny bubble right here. You can see that there. So the way to fix that would be to make a small batch of clear resin and then pour it over this surface and only push it to the edge. Don't have it flow over. And then that would seal that right up there. And then the same for this back here. What these ended up being was tiny little bits of plastic that had not gotten torn out when I was removing the plastic the first time. So I was pushing some of them in, and some of them stayed in once the resin got tacky enough, but obviously some of them didn't. So the way to fix this, same as the front, you can mix up another batch of resin. Clear if you didn't mind seeing the mica powders here, and then just do it just to the surface. I would do that after trimming completely though. Or if you wanted to cover up what mica powder floated to the surface here, you could do a layer of black resin, and that would completely cover these little bumps, and it would also cover any of the mica powder that floated there. But loving how those look. And if I was to make it for a set for something, I'd probably use all the same colors. But for this, I just like using the different colors because I love seeing how they end up turning out. And unfortunately, the light here doesn't necessarily show off the color shift at its best. I find out in the bright sunlight does it, but it is winter here. We've had gray fog for the last several weeks. So yeah, have fun with it and have fun seeing what's around your house, what you can add texture with your coasters.